The Garden Report is brought to you by Prize Picks and the Game Time app.
Hey, Bobby Manning here. Welcome to the Garden Report. Noah Dalzell alongside after another classic performance game between the Celtics and Wolves. These two teams, it seems like they only play good games. Another matchup between Anthony Edwards, Jayson Tatum, two of the most popular young players in the game. Two guys vying for that top spot among the American stars in the game. And of course, rivals in that starting five documentary from a year ago. The game that these two teams played in Minnesota obviously drew a ton of attention in that documentary, and it was one of the better games last year any teams in the league played. Obviously, Edwards in that documentary after shook off Tatum as being the best player in the league, and talk trash all the way back to the locker room. And that came out over the summer, so tonight was the first time Brown, Tatum, the Celtics could react to some of the trash talk we saw from Edwards in that, and here's what they had to say.
And, we was talking a lot of shit to each other during the summer. I got a pretty good record against Minnesota in my career. So, that was the one time they beat us so far. But, it's fun. They're a really good team. They well coached. They got some talent over there. So I'm certain for the near future the games against those guys will be, really fun ones.
It's a part of the game. It's basketball. At the end of the day, it's nothing personal. Just come out and playing ball and being competitive. And is one of the more competitive guys in this league. He's one of the young superstars. You play both sides of the ball. You play hard. You want to win. So I got respect for it. Plus, we're from the same background. I get it. I know what type of cloth he cut from. So, to me, it's normal. I don't see nothing of it.
So I didn't see a ton of it in this game tonight. Obviously, Wolves were chasing pretty much the whole way after Jaylen Brown hit 5 straight threes to open this one. So I don't think there were many opportunities for trash talk on Edwards' end. But I found it interesting that you just saw the Celtics being able to basically shake off the Wolves in this one. That's pretty much what Tatum did right there, say we've beaten this team pretty much every time.
Yeah, I think he said once in his entire career he's lost to the Wolves. And I still get a kick out of how big of a deal this regular season game has become. Even before the starting five, I feel like it was just a little bit overblown. It was just a regular win. But Anthony Edwards adds flair to it, and obviously the trash talk. And I didn't seem like there was much of that tonight. But from what Tatum said, sounds like it was a big theme over the summer. And right now there's just not a lot of rivalries for the Celtics. That's one of the things that I realized when we're talking about this team and how business-like they are and the lack of drama. There's also a little bit of a lack of storyline of this is the team that they've been battling against for the last few years. For a while it was Miami, and then Miami's just not quite that powerhouse right now.
Dallas didn't develop
Dallas
into
didn't
that.
do it. They didn't face the 76ers or the Bucks last year. Those were two teams that I think there's been some promise in the East. Yeah, so there hasn't been that rivalry. Not that this is a rivalry now, but there's a little something here. And you could see it. You could see Al Horford's reaction at the end of this game. They've also just played a bunch of pretty lackluster teams over the last few weeks, so it was just fun to see them play against another potential contender. I don't know if they're a contender quite right now, but certainly they were in the mix last year.
Yeah, and you had Edwards on the come-up last year. Beat them in that first game. I thought it progressed pretty rapidly for a lot of last year. So you did have a debate as Edwards rose and maybe accelerated at a trajectory faster than where Tatum was at that time in his career. You're saying, all right, is this guy who's on the verge of passing Tatum as soon as now? And they almost get to the finals, and I think that's a big reason, you had that storyline flowing through last season, is that it very easily could have flowed from Minnesota knocking off the Celtics at home, Celtics escaping that game here, great game, and one of Tatum's better performances all year, and then you meet up in the finals. And it probably would have been a better finals, I think, than what we saw between the Celtics and Mavs there. But it's a completely different story this year. Minnesota's almost starting from scratch, and I think you saw that for a lot of this game. Edwards, Randall trying to figure it out. Rudy's still in there, and they're trying to fit in Naz Reid. And it just felt like, even though this was a close game, especially late, and Naz Reid actually almost got a good look off from three to win this game, that the Celtics had them at arm's length for most of this game. And a lot of that goes back to the progression we've seen from Brown and Tatum. They're further ahead in their careers than Edwards in that Minnesota group.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that the Minnesota Timberwolves are missing Karl Anthony Towns a little bit. This is a different team than they were last year. The defense is not quite the same. Some of that's Cat, some of it's, just different rotations, different things. And it's also hard to sustain that level of defensive focus year in, year out. And I think last year what they had was really special. That buy-in that they had across the board, it was stifling to play them. I think that's what everybody talked about it after you faced Minnesota. It was like they were just making you catch the ball out farther. You didn't see that tonight. You also didn't see Anthony Edwards hit one of those stretches where he's just kind of floating and the game is coming super easy to him. His stat line was very solid. He had a good game, but he didn't have one of those like takeover stretches that we've definitely seen from him in his career. I'd imagine if you play Anthony Edwards 5-6 times in a row, he has a few of those games, and that just wasn't tonight's game. But it was fun to have a little extra spice in this game. I think just in general, like I said, they've been missing a little bit of that, and so this gave them even just a small sample, but it gave them a little bit of something.
Yeah, and as a team, you see the Celtics so much further ahead than the Wolves. I mean, they naturally flowed toward Brown, not only in the first quarter, playing Brown for the full first quarter, as we talked about in the postgame show, but late. Brown takes 7 shots to Tatum's 3 and effectively closes this game. And the Wolves just aren't there yet in terms of like, all right, who's going to have the ball when, who's setting the table here. And even I felt like Edwards didn't get the shots he wanted to until later in this game. The Celtics
I agree with that.
lured him into some difficult shots inside, and then he started hitting threes later. He's been a guy who shoots 11 threes, so his role has changed this year too, game. So they're going to play again in January. I'm sure it'll be another close game. And we're going to talk about this Edwards-Tatum thing for a while here. Like, these guys are probably going to be tied at the hip for a lot of their career, and maybe Edwards will end up beating Tatum at some point later in his career. But Tatum got that last word in today, is that I've beat you pretty much every time here.
Yeah, and it's fun that they were teammates, obviously, the Olympics. So, I think it's pretty playful. I don't think there's, any animosity there. But, yeah, there's a lot of hype when there's these young guys that come in, and Anthony Edwards was one of those. But the sustained level of winning that Jaylen Brown and Jayson Tatum have had now for 7 years there's not really anything that rivals it in the league right now. There are no other duos that have had that level of winning, and they finally got the championship last season. But they've been doing this for a long time at a really high level. And I think tonight was just another reminder that they are still the team that you kind of have to run through. Even though it wasn't a commanding victory, it wasn't a blowout win, I think they did control this game for the most part.
Yeah, did it without Luke Cornett. Al Horford came back from the illness in this game. He'll be out tomorrow probably against the Clippers, as he has been in these back-to-back situations. Clippers played today as well, so both teams are going to be coming into tomorrow's game on the second half of a back-to-back. We'll have coverage of it here at TD Garden, 7:30 start. We'll see who's available for the Celtics coming into it, and we'll have coverage of the will be probably a tough game, even with no Kawhi Leonard on that Clippers side here. Celtics-Clippers back-to-back here at TD Garden before we head to a little bit of a Thanksgiving layoff in the Celtics schedule here, and then a road trip. So for Noah Dalzell, I'm Bobby Manning. Let us know what you think of Edwards, Tatum, that whole thing, the Wolves brewing rivalry, if that's even a thing here, and whether we could see these teams playing next summer maybe when we see who's going to come out of the West for the finals. And we're brought to you by Prize Picks. Go over there and use the code CLNS for a bonus. We got some football coming up on Monday night, as well as Celtics Clippers. So go build your daily fantasy team over there. Use that code CLNS. You want to be here for the game tomorrow night? Sometimes Monday night's a good night to sneak in. You see James Harden, Powell. Celtics probably going to have Brown and Tatum rolling as well for that one. So still a good matchup, good game. Even with no Kawhi, use the code CLNS for $20 off your first ticket purchase over on the Game Time app. Terms apply. And check out Built Rewards to start earning on your rent when you pay it. For Noah Dalzell, again, I'm Bobby Manning. This has been the Garden Report. Celtics escape the Wolves. Naz Reid just too late at the buzzer. 107-105 the final score here. Hey, Bobby Manning here. If you made it this far, you probably enjoyed this video, so subscribe, turn on notifications, and check out our social media platforms at Celtics CLNS.